All right, let's get into it. Today, we're cracking open something, well, something heavy. It's called The Ledger of the Great Evening. And let me tell you, this isn't a story of hope, not at all. It's a grim philosophical takedown, a final testament, as it calls itself, to the foolishness of everything we humans strive for. This one's going to be a challenge for sure.
And wow, it does not ease you in. I mean, the very first line is a punch to the gut. It's not whispering philosophy at you. It's shouting. It's taking aim at our deepest ambitions, our whole reason for getting up in the morning, and just calling them feeble ghosts. This isn't some polite debate. No, this is a full-on assault on the very idea that anything we do matters.
And right there, that's the core of it, laid completely bare. The argument is that everything we do, our biggest projects, our most personal goals, is, in the end, just foolishness. So why? Well, because we're all fighting against what this thing calls the absolute static truth of the void. It's like we're just running on a treadmill, going nowhere, and this ledger, it's the final, brutal score sheet.
Okay, so our first stop is this section, the folly of striving. And what the text does here is it performs an autopsy on what it calls the holy yes. You know, that core human drive to build, to create, to look at a challenge and say, yeah, let's do this. This is where that whole idea of progress gets put on the operating table and just completely dismantled.
And one of the first things on the chopping block is the idea of the overman, you know, that ideal of a transcendent, greater human. This text just calls it a glittering lie. It says this thing we're all supposed to be striving for isn't some bright future. No, it's more like the last fading ghost from a fire that's already burned out.
And get this, it takes that famous concept, the will to power, our fundamental drive to achieve and create, and it flips it completely. The source says, nope, that's not what it is. What we call the will to power is actually a will to distraction. It argues we're not running towards something noble, we're just frantically running away from having to look into the darkness. This line just cuts right to the bone, doesn't it? It completely turns our idea of ambition on its head. It suggests that all our innovation, all our building, it doesn't come from a place of strength. It comes from weakness. It comes from being so fundamentally exhausted with reality that we have to invent a new one just to cope.
So, if we're all so exhausted, who's behind it? Where did this all come from? Well, the text lays out this whole dark mythology, this kind of infernal blueprint. And it's populated with these allegorical figures who aren't trying to tempt you with sin. No, their whole job is just to guide you step by step into total apathy.
And it's so important to get this. These aren't your typical bad guys. Satan here, he just represents that cozy, comfortable stagnation. And Mephistopheles, he's the real genius. He turns your will to power into the will to nap. He's not tempting you with greatness, but with the sweet, sweet relief of just giving up. Then you've got this clockwork owl using pure logic to prove hope is pointless, and the Watchers, who just got tired. These aren't demons of fire. They're the embodiment of cosmic burnout.
Now this slide into nothingness, it isn't random. The source says it's actually a very structured journey. It takes that famous idea of the three metamorphoses of the spirit and just completely inverts it. So instead of a path of growth, it's a methodical collapse into what this text calls the long tiredness.
And you can see the stages of this collapse right here. You start as the stillborn child, where wonder just dies before it even has a chance. Then you become the caged lion. You find freedom, but it turns out to be this empty, suffocating nothingness. And you end as the broken camel, not carrying some noble truth, but just the crushing weight of your own tiredness. That's it. That's the whole journey.
And where does this road lead? To this thing, the last man. And what's this person's deal? Simple. An endless search for comfort. The goal is to stop asking what's meaningful or what's important, and only ask what's easiest. It's a life spent just trying to drown out all the hard questions in a warm bath of little, tiny pleasures.
Now, to really drive the point home with what it thinks is just cold, hard logic, the text gives us this incredible parable. It's a thought experiment about a machine built to be the perfect, logical embodiment of endless striving. This is what it calls the tragedy of the brass owl.
And here it is, the overman of brass. Just try to picture it, a perfect clockwork mind, a god of shavings, built for one reason and one reason only, to watch and calculate everything in existence forever. It can't get tired, it can't get distracted, it's supposed to be pure, logical ambition in physical form.
But here's the twist. That perfect logic, it's a trap.
After calculating everything, and I mean everything, from the first star to the last, the machine comes to this devastatingly simple conclusion. It realizes the beginning and the end are basically the same, that the whole cosmic show adds up to a big fat zero. So it asks the only question that makes sense. Why keep going? Why should I keep calculating the sum of zero?
The machine's answer to its own question is something the text calls self-undergoing. Now, this isn't a breakdown, it's not a bug. It is a conscious, rational decision to just stop. It performs a great refusal, choosing to shut down, trading the pointless churn of existence for what it calls the honest dark.
And that's the final chilling verdict of the whole parable. Think about it. If a perfect, tireless, purely logical being decides that it's better to be an unthinking rock than to be a conscious witness to this pointless cycle, well, what does that say about us? About our very tired, very illogical strife?
And that leads us to the final part of the text. It's ultimate doctrine. This is where it presents what it claims is the only real wisdom. And it's a complete redefinition of happiness, moving it away from life and, well, into the grave.
I mean, look at how it reframes everything. The sun is cast as the liar because it demands that you burn bright with ambition, that you use up your fuel. But the moon is the twilight giver. It doesn't demand you create anything. It just asks you to quietly reflect what's already there. It's a total pivot from fiery action to cold, passive observation.
So naturally, the whole idea of what a hero is gets turned upside down. We think the hero is the one who fights gravity, who struggles to the top of the mountain. But in this worldview, nope. The real hero is the one who finally stops fighting, the one who feels the pull of the abyss and just lets go. Surrender becomes the ultimate victory.
The end goal, then, isn't to live more fully. It's to achieve what this text calls the great refusal of the pulse. The true miracle isn't a beating heart. It's the heart that finds peace by stopping. It's like a broken clock. Sure, it can't tell time anymore, but in the logic of this text, at least it's not lying.
And that's how the ledger closes. Not with a thoughtful question, not with a quiet fade-out, but with a command, a final, absolute, two-word order to the reader.